Hey guys, what's going on? Today I am going to do a book review of the book Refrigerator Rights. This book is by Dr. Will Miller. And I'm doing this book review series kind of as a way to help keep myself accountable for the books that I read, but also to share the books that I read in case you or someone watching is interested in reading this book as well and just want to know a little bit more about it. So, this book, Refrigerator Rights, was published in 2002, so it's kind of an older book. Over 20 years old now at this point when I'm making this video. And the author, Dr. Will Miller, is an American ordained minister. He is a former stand up comedian, keynote speaker, teacher, and full time therapist. He was best known for being Nick at Night's resident television therapist and the host of their Why We Watch segments, which started in 1992. Now, I normally don't read books that are this old. I try to read books that are a little bit more modern, a little more current, just because I like to kind of be on the cutting edge of what people are talking about. But this book was recommended to me. I was online on a forum asking people questions about tips or suggestions for how to form stronger business relationships with my teams. And so this book was recommended to me, and so I read it. So, kind of like as an overview of this book, Refrigerator Rights, in the book, Will takes kind of a surface level look, in my opinion, at the impacts of relationships in our lives, specifically the relationships or the types of relationships that are so deep and so wholesome that they grant us access to someone else's refrigerator. Like somebody coming over to your house, you allow them to take food out of your own fridge. If you go to someone else's house, are you allowed to take food out of their fridge? Kind of like alluding to this really close, really intimate type of relationship. In the book, Dr. Miller talks about the sort of differences in society that we see today when it comes to how these relationships are held and maintained, and sort of the fall off of the importance of these types of relationships. Basically, in his book, Dr. Miller states that he has been noticing that as a society, we as humans have been straying towards more isolated lives with the emergence of technology, media, people moving for work, etc. Again, remember this came out in 2002. And this isolated lifestyle change has been leading to a variety of negative side effects on humans, on us. Things like depression, poor performance at work, feelings of inadequacy, and more. Although I do really agree with kind of the premise of the book and the fact that, yes, there has been sort of this interest in social isolation in the past few years with technology and remote work and all that, I do think the book reads a little bit bland to me. And again, because Dr. Miller is a minister, I think it kind of reads like a pastor giving a sermon, for a number of reasons. For starters, there's a lot of personal opinion. There's a lot of opinion in this book, and a lot of like Dr. Miller referencing things that he and some of the people that he's interacted with have observed, but there's not really any statistical evidence in the form of like, here's an actual study that was done. This is all like, this is people that I know, people that I have known. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes when I read books and people are making bold claims about things like cancer rates have gone down in communities where there are support systems, I want to see some evidence to back that. And I'm not saying the evidence isn't out there, I'm saying the evidence wasn't presented in this book. I also found it kind of odd that Dr. Miller in this book refers to self-help books as fulfillment for dummies. And he thinks that only having these like refrigerator rights can fix us, and that nobody can help themselves. That everybody needs to have like a really well flushed out community of people that support them to fix any amount of personal problems that they have, which I kind of disagree with. Another thing that kind of like rubbed me the wrong way was the end of the book. Dr. Miller plugs the church. He talks about like if you want to find these types of communities, these types of refrigerator rights relationships, you need to start going to a church or start going to a church community, which I don't disagree with that. I think that for him and many people that does work. I don't like it being pushed in my face in any like type of experience, but especially when I'm reading a book. So, the three core topics and takeaways that I took from this book, Refrigerator Rights, number one is that moving away from family and friends is probably not the smartest thing to do, specifically in terms of like the long run. Such moves like this need to be calculated carefully, and the relationships need to be maintained because they can fall apart. And for me, somebody who travels frequently for work on tour, it really was a takeaway and a reminder for myself to keep these relationships close. Another core topic I took from this book is Dr. Miller's discussion about how we as a society engage too much in objective work, basically staying busy at all times and even treating our downtime as structured. Like if you've ever been the type of person who plans out your vacations or plans out your off time, maybe it's because you have this sort of like constructive notion towards your off time. And Dr. Miller basically says that doing that, trying to have this like control of your freedom and your free life just adds more anxiety, guilt, and disappointment when some of those goals for whatever you call like a successful relaxation day aren't met. And the final takeaway I got from this book was Dr. Miller's discussion about how lasting energy, like energy in our own lives, comes from a life where we face challenge and worry with a supportive mentality, which is achieved through supportive interactions with people close in our lives. He's basically saying that to combat the little problems and issues that we have to face every day, to combat them consistently and to get on good terms with facing these problems, we need to have these supportive communities around us. So, how I'm going to be using these sort of topics and themes throughout this book in my life are as follows. I'm going to start by involving as many people possible in my decisions, especially those that are stressful or give me anxiety. In his book, Dr. Miller states that when we are surrounded by people who we feel connected and empowered through, their presence alone can help transform the ordinary stresses and strains of life. And I'm constantly having to face a lot of different stresses and anxieties in life. And so I could benefit from having a stronger community around me. Also, as someone who constantly leans into social isolation to get work done, like I work really well alone because I can focus. In fact, making this video, I had to find a time and place where I could just be dedicated to doing this without outside distraction. I'm going to work on finding a better balance for my life. Dr. Miller teaches that we literally need community to survive. And he has several examples throughout his book where he references people and stories who fell sick or had illnesses, and the ones that had community available to them were able to overcome these illnesses, whereas the people that didn't have community got worse and worse. And lastly, I'm going to really take away Dr. Miller's notion about reestablishing family wherever I am. He talks about the importance of having family that you go back to, but the reality is we all change, we all grow up, we get older, we get new families, and sometimes our families are not our blood, they're people that are around us who we engage with often. But to get those refrigerator rights, you have to form those relationships meaningfully, meaning you have to like really engage in building these relationships. And so I'm taking that away as sort of a task or a to do item for me. So ultimately, I think I would rate this book like a 6.2 out of 10. I think there was a lot of great substance in there. And I think the topic is very important for everybody, whether it's for professional, business reasons, or personal reasons. But I had some hesitations with the surface level approaches, the opinion driven discussions, and sort of like this acumen and this like constant nagging sensation or feeling that really Dr. Miller was pushing some sort of um, religious objective on me. Which, again, I have nothing against organized religion of any sort, but I wasn't expecting it with this book, and I didn't like how it was sort of written out to be like the solution to all these problems. I don't think that's true. If you have read this book, I'm curious what you think. Please let me know in the comments. If you want to pick up this book for yourself, there's going to be a link in the description below this video. And again, I am a business owner, founder, entrepreneur who is constantly looking for new ways to level up and sharpen my skills as a leader. So if you have suggestions or recommendations for other books I should read, I'd love to hear all about it. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you next time. Have a great week and see you next time.